Hi. Today we're going to watch a great interview on Sky News with Pauline Hanson, where she discusses the possibility of her new policy to defund the ABC, and also she discusses the fuel crisis, possible extortion going on there, and her lack of trust in Chris Bowen. Let's have a look at it now, and I'll come back with some comments at the end.
Let's duck down to Canberra now and catch up with One Nation leader, the woman of the moment, Pauline Hanson. Thanks for joining us, Pauline. I want to go on to the fuel crisis, but I've got to get you first up on this, the ABC strike today. Not that you bob up on the ABC very often. What do you think of this? The fact that they're fair. Look, if they want to go on strike, of course, they've got the right. I think it's madness, but they've got the right. But they can't then use our public broadcaster to prosecute their case.
I totally agree. Chris, there's an easy answer to all this. Defund it, the $1.2 billion a year, then they can have to reapply for the jobs and it'd be on subscription only. So therefore, keep the ABC radio going, pay for that by all means, but the rest of it, shut them down and subscription only. So if people want to pay to watch the ABC, so be it. I wouldn't fund it anymore. I'd shut it down.
Whenever I've questioned you before about policy, you tell me to go to your website and there's plenty of policy there. I've been there and I've had a look around. I have now not been able to find a policy on the ABC. So is that your policy on the ABC, to shut it down?
Yeah, I've been working. Yeah, it's got to be subsidised by the people who want to watch it. Keep the ABC running in rural and regional areas with the ABC radio. I think they do a great job. As far as the others, no, I wouldn't be feeding them. Because, you know, I put out in the Parliament when Mitch Fifield was there, he was the minister, and I tried to get what was fair and balanced put in the charter. Never did. And it's not. I don't think it's fair and balanced. It is paid by the taxpayers. People expect fair and balanced program to be put across. Let them fund it themselves.
It's nowhere near fair and balanced. It is left-wing propaganda. There's no doubt about that.
I agree.
But are you saying what One Nation's policy would be to maintain local and rural radio and make the rest of it a subscription service?
Correct. It's lost its ratings. It's not getting many people watching it. The cost of $1.2 billion a year to the taxpayer, I think it's unrealistic. And let them see if people want to watch their programs.
Gee, Pauline, if you talk like that about the ABC, they might start attacking you.
Oh, well, bring it on.
I'm being sarcastic. They've done nothing but attack you for the last 30 years.
I know.
Let's go to this fuel crisis. There are calls now from the New South Wales opposition leader Kelly Sloan for a reduction in fuel excise from Canberra. Is she right? Should Canberra be taking less tax to try and help people get through?
Of course they should, and I'd support that reduction in fuel excise tax. Let me tell you some information that I found out. With the increase in the fuel, of course, they're getting more in GST. Apparently, the federal government is making $300 million a month off the GST extra. $300 million a month extra in GST from the fuel crisis. So that's disgusting, the way it's going. I don't trust Chris Bowen, what he's telling us. I've spoken to a fuel distributor. He's torn between, giving fuel to Tamworth or to Dalby or to the local council that needs it as well. He said he's got people that are crying on his shoulder that they need fuel, whether it's a farmer, there's a cotton grower, he can't pick his cotton. You've got other growers, the milk industry, they said they can't deliver their milk. He said milk prices are going to go skyrocket. The add-on effects with all this, it is a crisis in rural and regional Australia.
Yeah, there's no doubt Canberra's getting a lot more money. I wouldn't dispute that figure, but I know it's about 10 cents a litre, right? Because prices have gone up about $1 a litre so far. They get 10% GST on that, so they're getting 10 cents a litre. So if you fill up a 70-litre automobile, a normal family truck, so there's an extra $7 going to Canberra.
Yeah, about 70 to 80 cents.
Or $7 all up,
and that's what the government will begin.
Yeah, and they're getting an extra 70 cents or so out of that. So, they can't cut the excise overall, but we saw under the Howard government, we saw the excise. Under the Morrison government, we saw the excise halved for a while. They were happy to take the cost to the budget. It might be worth that in these times, wouldn't it?
Look, you have to help the families out there because they are struggling with cost of living. Of course, interest rates have just gone up again this last couple of weeks. So people are struggling terribly. A lot of people are now not being able to go to work because of cost of fuel. But I think, Chris, the main thing is that we have to ensure the rural and regional areas have fuel, especially the farming sector. They desperately need it. Otherwise, you're going to see lack of fuel in our shopping, on our shopping shelves. You're going to see the increase in cost of living that will go up then. Bowen has said all along, we've got the same amount of fuel as what we have. There's no crisis here. Do you know that we actually, at that time, when I saw it earlier this week, we had around about 19 plus so many days on water. So we're looking at 20, 25 and 27 days across the three levels of fuel. That's diesel and aviation fuel. So now he's saying we've got plenty of fuel. Well, if we've got plenty of fuel, why are we running out of it? Why are they saying they can't get it? I'll tell you what's happening. There's an extortion that's going on. So you've got the fuel tankers at landing. It's put into the tanks here. Then you've got the big conglomerates out there. They're controlling it. So they're not passing it on to the independents. And this is going to be destroying the independent fuel suppliers out there, these garages where the big business, big end of town, the extortion that is going on. Now, a tanker of 74,000 litres, that's costing for delivery just under $250,000. A lot of these small, because the cost of fuel's gone up, these small independent fuel suppliers or garages, they can't afford that and they can't get credit. They're not giving them credit. So that's why they can't pay for this fuel to put into the fuel tank. So I believe there's extortion going on.
They'll be pushed to the wall if that goes on. Distribution is a massive problem. Let's have a listen to the Labor Premier of New South Wales.
What we're seeing is the lumpy distribution of fuel in the economy today. We want to make sure that all sectors of the state and all parts of the economy have access to it, particularly independent petrol stations where we're seeing a persistent lack of access to petrol.
Yeah, well, his comments suggest to underscore your point that the independents are being squeezed out. Right. We need, and as you say, we need access to those areas that are supplying us with food and the rest of it. So there needs to be priorities. It does not stack up. Chris Bowen's claim that we've got as much fuel as ever does not stack up when we've got so many stations running dry, because most of us haven't got jerry cans or whatever. Most of us, all we can do is when we see this situation, fill up our car. That's all that you can do. We could hardly run so much of the country out of fuel, but just by doing that.
Chris, what we have to do is investigate the cost what they're charging for this. If this fuel's been on land, then why are we charging more for it now at the Bowser and these companies allowed to charge whatever they want to? I understand supply and demand, but on fuel crisis, it has to be, I think the government needs to step in and see what they're charging. As I said, these big organisations are actually wanting to get rid of the smaller independent fuel stations, and that's why they can't get a flow on to distribution to get the fuel to supply to the smaller ones. It's so that's why we call now for the government to bring in the Act of 1984 and call it a crisis that it is. I don't trust Bowen. I don't trust a damn thing that he tells us or the people, saying everything's all right. He said we didn't have a crisis, then we had a crisis. We had fuel, then you can't get fuel delivery. Then he says the ships were coming. Well, the ships didn't turn up. So it's just one thing after another. I think he's concerned about it, but he doesn't want to tell the people the truth.
Yeah, he seems to be putting on a brave face, smug and confident as ever, but he is that way over our electricity grid as it goes into turmoil as well. I've got to ask you about the latest Sky News Pulse poll. It's got One Nation still going higher. You're up another percentage point. You're only 2% federally behind Labor now, and that's extraordinary with the coalition languishing at 19%. We've got to take these polls seriously because what we saw in South Australia on the weekend perfectly mirrored what was being polled. So you just must be licking your lips when you think of the Farrer by-election, not to mention Victoria later in the year.
Chris, the Farrer by-election will be on the 9th of May. There's still work to be done before that election is to convince the people that to vote for One Nation and that electorate to deal with the issues that are important to them. So, look, it's wonderful to see those polls, and I know it did, translate at the South Australian state elections, but that's one state. We have to keep working hard to prove to people we have the policies, we have the nous to be able to turn this country around. As I keep saying, One Nation is about the party to get our country back. And people
you mentioned a party.
Put the hope and trust into Pauline Hanson.
Now you're officially recognised as a party with Barnaby Joyce coming on board. You got a pay rise of $100,000. What are you going to do with that?
Oh, wow, Chris, let's take the tax out of it. Did you ask the Greens leader, Larissa Waters, or any other leaders about their pay packet? Have you asked, well, please do that. I didn't go and say, knocking on the door, say, I want a pay rise. That was part of the position of becoming a parliamentary party. With it comes the responsibilities that goes with it as well. So, it's what's given to us. Some of these people in vice chancellors are on $900,000 million. $1 happy with my pay. Yes, they are. Then some of these others,
they are. Some of them, the ABC, are on $700,000.
The whole lot can be reined in, Chris.
Yeah,
the whole lot can be reined in, as far as I'm concerned.
Great stuff, Pauline. Thanks for talking to you. Appreciate it. That's the One Nation.
Awesome interview with Pauline. She doesn't hold back. So she's brought up the possibility and the policy of defunding the ABC. She wants to keep the radio ABC, which goes nationwide, which does serve a great function in terms of distributing information in times of emergency, particularly. But the ABC, apart from that, on TV, what they've served up has become left-wing propaganda, sadly, over the last decade or two. And that shouldn't be what the taxpayer is paying for. We need an unbiased, neutral dissemination of news, entertainment from the government-funded broadcasting service. So it's been hollowed out by inner-city woke multiculturalists. And if that's what it is, it needs to be defunded. So let me know what you guys think of that in the comments. The other thing she was discussing was the imminent fuel crisis that the nation is suffering due to the war in Iran. But she's focused on the possible extortion that's going on with the big conglomerates that are freezing out the independent service stations because they can't get the credit to pay for the loads of fuel. So the conglomerates are freezing them out at the moment and then only allowing the bigger companies that can afford the fuel to buy it. This is obviously causing massive supply issues around the nation, which could soon flow into food and general inflation in the market. And these price increases shouldn't really have happened at this stage because the supply is still there, apparently, in the country. It could get worse if those supplies dry out. But why has the price increased so much so rapidly? It could be due to this extortion that she's talking about. She also talks about her lack of faith and trust, and I think generally that we all have in Chris Bowen. He's not being on the front foot, not being proactive in tackling all of that extortion and the fuel supply in general, particularly to our regional areas. So please let me know in the comments how you guys see things tracking, what your feelings are, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.